From humble beginnings to ruling the pitch with his unmatched talent, when you hear the name Pelé, what normally comes to mind is the word king of football. But what you didn't know is that the legend of football went through trials and tribulations, and at one point, he almost got killed in a war, but all this happened to shape his life and become the legend of football. You can't erase his name from the history of football. Get ready to embark on an epic journey of the man who redefined football greatness forever. Pelé, the king of football. Born as Edson Arantes do Nascimento, he was called Pelé by accident after mispronouncing the name of a famous goalkeeper, Pelé. But he didn't even like the name, but it stuck. Growing up in Brazil with a father who was a professional football player, the pressure to succeed was immense. When he was a young boy, he loved playing soccer and was really good at it. He played on a team for kids his age in his neighborhood. One day, he got a chance to play on a big team, and it was the beginning of his soccer career. But Pelé's father, Dondinho, was not just a role model, but also a source of inspiration. As Pelé himself said, "To me, the best player in the world." Pelé had a difficult childhood. His father got injured and the club stopped paying him. Pelé, hearing that they were struggling for money, went downtown and began shining shoes for a few pennies. Despite this, Pelé was always optimistic about Brazil and never wanted to go anywhere else. Even at the young age of 13, Pelé was already a standout player on his youth team, winning matches by huge margins and drawing huge crowds to watch him play. Eventually, he was forbidden by the league from playing in certain positions as it was deemed unfair to the other kids. He faced challenges even in his early days on the field. Despite being too young to play with full-grown adults in his first futsal tournament, he went on to be the top scorer. Offers from teams came pouring in, but his mother wanted him to have a normal life with a family. However, one coach, Waldemar Brito, saw Pelé's potential and begged the mother to let him join Santos. As soon as he arrived, the air seemed to lighten, and he was immediately offered a professional contract. The coach knew he had found the next greatest player to ever live. The teenage sensation was destined for greatness from the start. Despite being put in the B squad at just 15 years old, he scored 13 goals in his first 13 matches and quickly moved up to play with the grown-ups. In his very first game, he scored and went on to be the top scorer in his first tournament. He was quickly called up to the national team at just 16 years old and had been a professional player for only 10 months. His place in the starting 11 at Santos was solidified, allowing him to finish the year as a top scorer in the Paulista Championship with 17 goals. Pelé proved that destiny is real and he was meant to be a football star. Rising to fame. Pelé's rise to fame was nothing short of extraordinary. The year before he debuted for Santos, the top scorer of the Paulista had only scored 16 goals, but in his second season, Pelé scored an astounding 58 goals, making Santos state champions for only the second time in their history and immediately becoming a legend. The 1958 World Cup took him from being just an impressive wonder kid to being without a doubt the greatest player of all time. It all happened so suddenly that as he traveled to Sweden for the tournament, it was his first time leaving Brazil. In fact, the federation almost didn't call him up because of a psychologist deemed him not responsible enough and too childish to play in such a high-stakes tournament. But as we all know, Pelé went on to prove himself and cemented his place in the history of football. Pelé's confidence at the 1958 World Cup was astounding, especially for a 17-year-old player, but he justified that confidence through his incredible performance on the field. Initially, he and Garrincha were left out of the squad, but they were eventually forced to play by their teammates in a must-win match against the Soviet Union. This not only made Pelé the youngest player to ever play in a World Cup, but also allowed him to assist one of the goals that put Brazil in the quarterfinals. Pelé was even more decisive in the quarterfinals, scoring an incredible acrobatic goal that was considered by some newspapers as the most beautiful goal of the tournament. He went head-to-head with Just Fontaine, who broke the World Cup's goal-scoring record that year and still completely outshined him, scoring a hat-trick to seal Brazil's spot in the final. The final was against the tournament's host, Sweden, who scored first. But Pelé remembered a promise he made to his father to win the World Cup. And even though he didn't score the game-tying goal, he scored Brazil's third and fifth goal as they won the title 5-2. Pelé was considered the second best player in the tournament, only rated below Didi, and he was the revelation of the tournament. Pelé's success at the 1958 World Cup was a turning point in his life and in the history of football. As soon as he stepped foot in Brazil after the tournament, he was welcomed as a hero and was the most admired, loved man in Brazil. He was the image of Brazil and football's first superstar. His name could sell any product, and he became the football's first millionaire. Back at Santos, everything changed as well. The team had only one trophy in their nearly 50 years of existence, but that one trophy came in the year before Pelé arrived, and it was like their greatest ever team was waiting for their greatest ever player. They went on a tour around Europe, destroying teams like Barcelona and impressing so much against Inter that their fans gave Pelé a standing ovation, leading Santiago Bernabeu himself to meet with Pelé to try to arrange his signing as a replacement for the great Raymond Kopa. But despite rumors that Santos agreed on a price, Real Madrid never triggered it. It was also that year that Pelé scored the best goal of his career, lobbing the ball over two defenders and then the goalkeeper without ever letting it touch the ground. Though the goal was not recorded, a plaque was placed in the stadium, ensuring it would be remembered forever. In 1961, Pelé had the most prolific year of his career, scoring 110 goals. His skills on the field were so respected and feared in Europe that when Olympiacos beat Santos 2-1, it was seen as a major achievement and was even mentioned in the club's anthem. However, the biggest event of the year was the massive transfer saga that saw Inter, Milan, and Juventus all battling for his signing, offering up to 600 million lira for the player, a record-breaking sum at the time. But the Brazilian president at the time, Jânio Quadros, fearing the reaction of the public, declared Pelé a national treasure, making it illegal to sell him to a foreign club and forbidden him from leaving the country without government permission. However, at that point, Pelé had no reason to complain, as Santos had proven to be the best team on the planet, beating European champions Benfica in the Intercontinental Cup by 8-4 on aggregate, with Pelé scoring 5 himself in one of the most dominant performances of his career, and established that year as his absolute peak, setting the expectations for the World Cup at an all-time high. Pelé was the king of football, and he proved it time and time again. Despite injuries and setbacks, he continued to dominate the game, scoring goals left and right, leading his team Santos to victory after victory. But as the 1966 World Cup approached, the pressure was on for Pelé to lead Brazil to another championship, and he did not disappoint, scoring a career record 8 goals in one match and proving that he truly was the king of the sport. Even off the field, Pelé was adored and admired by the public, a true superstar of the game. The football prodigy was on a mission to conquer the World Cup once again. But as soon as the tournament started, it became clear that his opponents had a new strategy to stop him by kicking him off the ball. Despite his best efforts, he was brutally fouled up to 17 times per match and eventually had to sit out a game due to injuries. Even with the help of his partner in crime, Garrincha, the team was unable to prevent their defeat by one of their greatest rivals. In a shocking turn of events, Pelé announced his retirement from the World Cup, stating that he had no luck at the tournament and that it was the second time he had been eliminated after just 2 games. Bringing peace. One day, Pelé and his team Santos were invited to play a game in Congo. The people in Congo were very excited to see Pelé play, but there was a big problem. The country was in the middle of a war, and many people were fighting and hurting each other. The government wanted Pelé and his team to come play a game to help bring peace to the country. Pelé and his team were a little scared to go to Congo because of the war, but they wanted to help bring peace to the people. They flew to Congo, and when they got there, they were greeted by a big parade. People were cheering and celebrating their arrival. The day of the game, Pelé and his team were escorted to the stadium in a convertible car, just like a king. When they got to the stadium, the crowd was huge and everyone was cheering for Pelé. The game was very intense and both teams wanted to win, but in the end, Santos won the game. The people in Congo were so happy that they declared it a national holiday. Pelé's career reached new heights as he hit the milestone of 999 goals and was on the brink of scoring his 1,000th. With the expectation of the crowd, Pelé went for the penalty kick and scored, making history as the first player ever to score 1,000 goals. The moment was so historic and significant that the match was suspended for 20 minutes as fans and players celebrated together, marking a defining moment in not just Pelé's career, but in the history of football. With his iconic celebration and a mesmerizing assist, Pelé proved that he was the true ruler of the pitch and a force to be reckoned with. A 3rd World Cup win and a fitting end to an illustrious career that will be forever remembered by fans. He dominated the World Cup stage with 6 assists in a single tournament. Despite his incredible success, he retired with a sense of relief. But financial struggles forced him to come out of retirement and join the New York Cosmos alongside the great Beckenbauer for one final journey. So he was back for one last time to secure his future, but not for too long. Pelé was the king of football, and even America couldn't resist his charm. When he signed with the New York Cosmos, he was paid a whopping $5 million for just a 3-year contract. That's more than the highest paid basketball player in the US at the time. He completely captivated the nation with a whopping 152 photographers following his every move on his debut. That's more than the number of photographers present at Jimmy Carter's presidential induction 2 years later. Pelé was just too big to ignore, and even America couldn't resist his football magic. Pelé, the king of football, took the US by storm when he joined the New York Cosmos, with crowds flocking to see the legendary player in action. Over his 3-year stint, he led the team to victory and even managed to outdo the attendance at the president's induction ceremony. He ended his career on a high note, scoring over 1,200 goals and spreading love to the crowd as he left the field for the last time. And this is a story of a man that changed football forever. Rest in peace, King.